great big beautiful.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to WD Carousel Podcast. My name's Ian.
And I'm Crystal.
And we're going to do some park stuff.
Yay, park stuff! Well,
that's always
no,
fun.
no,
Well,
no.
okay,
We're doing
resort
resort stuff! Yay, resort
Yeah,
stuff!
It's like a park. You know what I mean.
We're doing property.
Property stuff. So,
Yay, property stuff!
if you haven't seen the title already, which I hope you did, unless you're just like in your car and it's just like playing through and you're not paying attention to the names, we are talking about the contemporary resort. And we haven't really talked about like resorts. We've talked about elements of resorts like pools and stuff, but we've never like actually talked about a resort just as a whole.
Yes, and I think this is a good way for people to get a little bit more familiar with when they want to go, where they want to stay, what they want to do, yada, yada, yada. So this will be a good beginning to that, and it's almost like we're starting from the top right now as far as, you know, quality, price, all of that stuff, and then we'll trickle down from there. Not saying that we're going to do them in that order, but this is kind of where we're starting, so.
Yeah.
Setting the bar.
So you're talking about quality. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, I mean, because what we have, like, the first two are, like, two of the most expensive to stay at,
Well, yeah, and they're the ones that Disney originally created. He only created 2 resorts, even though there are 3 officially around the monorail loop.
Yeah. Yep.
And 4 total that have connection directly to Magic Kingdom. There's only 2 that Disney had
a hand in.
Influence in when creating Disney World originally.
Right. And so the 2 that were the original 2 were the Contemporary and the Polynesian. And both were designed and built by U.S. Steel, who they had a relationship with in the beginning. Now,
they had a whole collaboration and everything.
Yeah, with they had some other stuff in California too. But so the Contemporary, the whole concept was that it was supposed to be the future, right? Like that was like, you know, you've been to Epcot. If you've been to Epcot, you know it's a similar kind of deal. It's all about creating, like, you know, trying to pioneer some sort of technology that hasn't been existing before, and this is the way that's going to be.
Future World 2.
Yeah, in Future World 2.
Future World and Magic Kingdom had a lot of what we not just imagine for the future, but where our future might be in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years.
Right.
And Disney was really innovative, as we know, through a lot of different aspects, and this was one way that he thought that he could really bring it to the grounds.
Right. So it was a collaboration, and U.S. Steel had kind of co-developed this process. Now the way it worked was on the site, and the Polynesian was constructed this way as well. They built a frame, and in the case of the Contemporary, it's that very distinct A-frame shape that they built, and it's just kind of like just a basic erector set structure. And then all of the rooms were furnished and assembled off-site in a factory somewhere. They came to the site, the building site, and just used a crane and slotted them in.
Almost pod-like.
Like a pod, yeah, and just kind of slotted them into the building structure and then finished it. So the idea here was that it would be that you could just simply, you had some stuff that was out of date, just slide out the pod and replace it with a better one. You know, that was kind of the concept. Was that it was
the idea behind
the basic idea was that it was going to be kind of modular, and so it was going to be always the latest up-to-date thing. Well, there was a couple of problems that arose from this. The first one was that the frame shifted because it's a building in Florida, sandy. So they, you know, twist and shift a little bit, and then all the pods were locked in place. There's no way that you could pull them out now, because if you've ever seen, like, even like an erector set or something that twists a little bit, if you have something in there, it changes shape, you can't pull it out anymore.
It's stuck.
So that particular concept was sort of a epic fail, a little bit. It still, you know, made it a very interesting building to look at, and it's still very unique, but it just didn't, that particular aspect didn't jive. The second problem that happened with this was because they had these like pods they were slotting in, there was kind of space between these pods, and so kind of junk and mold got in them. These were like these little like kind of air gaps in between, and people started to moisture gaps. Started to get in, and people started to smell something was kind of off.
Nothing makes me want to spend $500 a night on a room and smell mold.
Yeah. So this happened in both the Polynesian and the Contemporary. So what they ended up doing is that they had some sort of industrial fill that they put in, and they actually filled all of those spaces between every room. So that's not a problem anymore, but what they've essentially done is sealed its fate as a conventional building now. So it's just a building that they've sealed up, and it just happened to be built in a funny way.
But not sealed 100%.
Right.
And for those of you who have or have not even been down there, you might be familiar with the mode of transportation that Disney really caught on to and wanted to utilize around the parks, being the monorail.
Right.
And this is one of those unique buildings where the monorail actually goes through the middle of the building.
Right.
So it is not 100% sealed off from the elements.
Right.
Birds do get in. Rain does not, because of the way that they have it.
Yeah.
But the monorail train goes directly through the middle of the resort and goes out the other side, and you're able to hop on there and go directly to the other resorts, or if you want to go to Magic Kingdom and vice versa.
Right. And
getting
so
back from there.
Yes, and it's its own loop. The resort loop is its own loop in the monorail. So if you're not like,
it's a very unique feature.
Yeah, I think any resort anywhere, there aren't that many that can say they have a monorail going through the middle.
I can't think of a single one.
I can't think of
at least not on the American properties.
Yeah, the monorail is a sort of funny thing because
that's almost a different show.
It is, because we could talk about the monorail because
there's a huge cult following as far as the monorail goes.
Well, and it's not an efficient mode of transportation.
No, like, it's not.
It really isn't. Like, it was, the whole concept was that it was going to be more efficient, have like the single, wheels with the little guidance, and this kind of interesting idea, and it looked very futuristic, but it was horrendously expensive to do. And then on top of that, to build it to go through a building, like, it was crazy. I mean, it worked for the Contemporary because it had that kind of that arching A-frame structure. So they had this big, huge, magnificent open inner space for all sorts of different things. And so they put the monorail right through there, and I think there's actually like a servicing track underneath it too. In the like, there's like an area to come up and look.
I am not sure about that inside of the Contemporary.
It's not like an official maintenance space, but I think it's like they do have like some sort of emergency service.
Oh yeah, they probably do.
So, anyway,
especially if it's in the middle of a hotel, you want to make sure that there's like emergency exits and escapes and all that other stuff.
So it's a very unique place, and kind of getting into that is, you were mentioning the inside of the frame itself is really, really spectacular. Oh, also, I guess before we get into that, it opened on October 1st, 1971. So it was one of the very first resorts.
It was open when Disney
World opened.
Yes,
the Magic Kingdom
opened.
So it was one of the first. Was Poly open then too? I can't remember.
Yes, those two were open.
Okay, so it was the very first place you could stay. So October 1st, 1971. And it was very cutting edge. So kind of moving back into that big A-frame space, because of the weird way it was built, there's this big area in the middle, and they that mural. So there's a mural on the back.
There's a mural in the middle of the building.
Yes, that's
and what it is it is a mosaic done by Mary Blair, who is a very famous artist. I'm sure you've heard her name. Everybody's heard of her name. And it has lots of mountain scenes, and the one thing that you hear everybody talk about is finding the 5-legged goat. And there is one goat that has an extra leg. Don't know why. Mary decided to do it. Therefore, there are 5 legs on this goat. Maybe she just
miscounted.
No. Not when you're putting that many little individual tiles together. Unless that's a very big oops as far as the people who are actually like doing the cementing goes. Like, oops. Oh well.
But so it's very uniquely. It's got a very distinctive visual style.
It has
thoroughly places it into the 70s.
Yes, very much so. And doesn't matter even any updates that they've done. They did one recently in the last few years, and it is still, the mural is still there, but it definitely has this mid-century futuristic feel to it.
There is the mid-century future, retro future is alive and well in that space. It is pretty amazing.
I love.
Absolutely.
It makes me feel like, and this is not Disney IP, so don't get mad at me, the Jetsons.
Sure, yeah.
I love it.
Hanna-Barbera, don't sue us.
But it has that feel, yet now that they've updated the rooms, you don't have as cheesy of a feel. They've tried to go more modern with it.
Yeah.
I will say, off of reviews from people who have stayed there, they are not that impressed with the updates to the rooms.
Right.
They're okay. They're not spectacular.
Right.
Are they worth $500 a night? Probably not if it wasn't on Disney property. And it wasn't facing the Magic Kingdom for the fireworks show.
The proximity, you can walk.
There was a challenge done between which was faster, taking the monorail or walking to Magic Kingdom?
Yeah, walking probably won.
Walking won, getting there, but monorail won coming back, because the way that the monorail loops around is it goes from Magic Kingdom to Contemporary and then around to the other two resorts before coming back to Magic Kingdom. So by the time two adults anyways walk to Magic Kingdom, it's faster than going around the loop. Now, once you start adding in kids and strollers and all of that,
probably
little feet,
take the monorail.
But I thought that was pretty neat how they had like a little race off between the two.
That's funny. Yeah, and so it's you're paying for the convenience of where you are, because there isn't a lot. I mean, like when you go to Magic Kingdom, you will see the Contemporary. It's literally right there.
Yeah.
So you don't really.
It's closer than the parking lot is.
Right. Exactly. That's how crazy it is. Because the Ticket and Transportation Center, right?
Yep. Ticket and Transportation Center is back further because they wanted to still have that monorail experience for you coming in. But they had put the resorts closer to the park to try and give the ambiance and the feel. Not to mention, this is the closest resort to the actual park even than Grand Floridian or Polynesian.
Right.
So you are getting literally the fireworks show every night.
Yes.
From your room. You can see it and turn on the television for the music, and you don't have to pay park tickets at all.
You can just sit there if you want to. Yeah. So it's
awesome.
So it is an amazing experience, even though it's maybe not it is technically a AAA 5-diamond resort. You're not going to be like, oh my goodness, this is so much better than my moderate. Right.
Sheets.
Right.
No.
Like I had a perfectly lovely night in a value resort. So it's not like you're going to be just like, it's going to be like life-changing in terms of your accommodations, but it is an amazing space to be in. It's an amazing space to experience and go through and have that access to the park. It's really a really amazing deal.
If you get the chance to do it at least once in your life, I would say go for it, because that is...
It's very quintessentially Disney, which is pretty fun.
You get to be in the rooms that Disney inspired and see his parks, and it's a lot more immersive as far as those people who, are 100% gung-ho Walt.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you love the man, this is one of them.
This is one of his places. Now, they also have some good dining options. Is that true?
Okay, so they have some good and some not so good.
All right, hit me.
When you come into the resort, if you are coming in from the ground level, which is where any Ubers will drop you off, Lyft, taxis, parking. If you're there, you're going to come in, and the restaurant down there is called The Wave, and it's pretty good. They have morning brunch. I went once, and it was okay.
Okay.
It was better than some places, but I also ended up, because I got an Eggs Benedict, and they had lime hollandaise sauce, and it kind of threw me for a second.
Ooh.
But really good food. The atmosphere, we didn't have to have a reservation, which was amazing for a contemporary resort.
That's pretty crazy.
But it was pretty decent. You go up to the main level, which is a couple floors up, and that's the monorail level, the level that has the 2 different shops, and it has a couple others. There you're going to find Chef Mickey. Now, Chef Mickey is the character dining that you can find in the Contemporary, where you're going to have the Fab Five. You're going to have Mickey. You're going to have... It is. It's the Fab Five.
I know. I just keep thinking of Queer Eye every time you mention it, though. Sorry. I'm fine.
But you're going to see those base characters. You're going to see Mickey. You're going to see Pluto. You're going to see Minnie. You're going to see Goofy. You're going to see them all. And that one, you go for the experience. You do not go for the food. The food is not that good.
Not that good.
For that. But most character dining, you're not going for the food anyways. So
Garden Grill has a really good...
Garden Grill
anyway,
does.
That's not related.
Another story.
Yeah, totally different.
There is a little bar overlook and a little cafe that are like lined up right next to Chef Mickey.
Gotcha.
And that bar overlook looks over the other side of the Contemporary, where the pool is, where the river goes down to Wilderness.
Gotcha.
And all of that. So that's nice and relaxing, but no, you can't have a drink there and watch the fireworks. Where you want to do that is up on the top floor in California Grill, where you will find the best food at the Contemporary. They have an overlook.
And the most expensive, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. They have an overlook of the fireworks, and there is a bar attached. With the restaurant, you will need to have a reservation. With the bar, it's first come, first serve, and if you go during dinner, even dinner hours, even if it's not during the fireworks, save your receipt, and you can come back up to the overlook and watch the fireworks from the top of the Contemporary. So that's a nice feature as well. If you go up there for cocktails and maybe an appetizer in the bar area couple hours ahead of time, you can go back or do something else and then come back, watch the fireworks. It's a beautiful situation.
Very cool.
In 2016, I want to say, they officially opened the Bay Lake Towers, which is the DVC property attached to the Contemporary. It is a standalone sort of cylindrical, it's
unit. Very modern to mid 2000s.
It's actually more like a C, though. You just don't see it, because you see the outside curve when you're on the monorail loop.
What year was that?
I think like 2016 is when I believe they actually opened, but they were selling prior to.
Sure, for DVC.
For DVC for the points and stuff. Yeah. But that one also has a restaurant. That one, though, you have to be a DVC member staying at Bay Lake to be able to eat in that restaurant, or be a guest of a DVC member
What restaurant is this?
And that's the Top of the World.
Okay.
I want to say
2009, by the way, is when that opened.
Oh, I thought it was 2016.
No, 2009.
Oh.
They made some expansions and stuff too, I think.
That's
they've made some updates to Bay Lake, but it was 2009.
There are actually 4 buildings that are now considered part of the Contemporary.
They keep expanding it, and only the one part is the part that I remember. But they've got other little
that's the big guy
bits and bobs that are attached to it, so you can stay at the Contemporary without being in the 8-frame 70s building.
Now, that being said, I really think it's interesting how they call that the Top of the World restaurant, because the California Grill used to be called the Top of the World restaurant, and I know that because, unfortunately, guys, there was a couple accidents that happened in the Contemporary. One of them was someone who was up at the restaurant of Top of the World. I believe it was 1992, so this would be the original Contemporary, not the new one. Right. They were sitting on a ledge up there chit-chatting. All of a sudden, a swarm of wasps came out of nowhere, and in their frantic batting around happened to fall backwards and fall down 11 stories.
Oh, jeez.
And so there's the first death that happened on the Contemporary property. Another one actually happened inside the atrium, inside the A-frame. Yeah. Somebody jumped.
Oh.
And they think it was intentional. But they had shut down the monorail because I think that's where it happened. And so they had shut down the monorail for that. But there have been only 2 deaths in relation to the Contemporary, so...
Which, to be fair, like...
Honestly,
a lot of people go through that building. It's been open since the 70s. So, to be fair, in Disney in general, there haven't been as many deaths as you'd expect, considering how big of a property it is. But, that's because they're pretty OCD about safety, which is good. I'm glad about that.
And I'm sure there have been a lot of safety features that have happened since both of those.
Those things, absolutely.
I mean, the most recent one happened in 2016. That's probably where I got my number from. Sure. That was the intentional
jump. Potentially, allegedly intentional jump.
Yes. Gotcha. I mean, I'll never know, but but still, those 2 instances probably helped adjust the contemporary to what you see it as now.
Yeah.
As far as safety features and everything go.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a place that I've been to, but it's a place I've never stayed. So it's on my list.
I've shopped there. I've eaten there. Walked through there. Monorailed through there.
Yeah.
There are videos online of room tours, which are kind of interesting. There's one group that I watched that actually had a connection to go into the presidential suite while the fireworks were going.
Oh, wow.
And so they had 4 balconies to choose from. Now, we were talking about $500 a night for one little balcony.
Basic. That's super basic.
And then, could you imagine 4 balconies? It was huge.
That is amazing.
Yeah, but they were just like, I don't know when we're gonna walk into this ever again.
Yeah.
Because I don't expect to walk into any hotel's presidential suite ever.
Yeah, ever once. Yeah. Wow.
So that was a pretty neat experience to see them document. And I'm sure like I was watching it and they were like, and this is the towel and this is the bathroom, and it was so like, oh, this is the presidential suite.
That is amazing. Yeah. So definitely one of their most expensive properties to stay at, but not the
one of the most unique.
Yeah.
As far as architecture goes as well.
Yes.
So there are going to be other ones that have theming and all these other things, and a lot of the resorts, like we've said before, you can't go wrong staying on Disney.
Right.
But this is one of them that is epitome, iconic. Walt intended it to look like this, so therefore it is this.
Right. Yes. And interestingly, we mentioned Polynesian. Maybe we'll do that one next. Maybe we'll do that soon.
I don't know.
Interestingly, Polynesian is also constructed the same way, but it looks completely different because they did a little bit differently.
100% different.
So it's interesting. They just used that same stacking method, the same kind of pod stacking method, but the Polynesian is themed completely differently. So it was a very interesting.
You want to know what else I heard about the other day?
What's that?
And by the other day, I mean probably 2 months ago plus. There used to be, in the resorts that were on the lake right there, they used to have different boating rentals and yada yada yada.
Yes.
They closed that for the Contemporary.
The Contemporary?
You can get them at the Poly, you can get them at Grand Floridian, you can no longer rent boats, yachts, scooters, none of that.
What was the reason?
No clue.
No reasoning behind that. Disney making its weird little decisions.
I don't know if it's because of the placing of the access to water.
Sure.
Because then they have to go through, instead of it being directly on the lake, they have to go around the river and do all of that other stuff.
Maybe all the drivers between the thing were just like, can you not have these
nobody
people?
Was interested when they went to the Poly.
Maybe that's
when they went to the Contemporary.
It was only the Poly that had a lot
because they saw it right there.
Right. Interesting. And interestingly, there is U.S. history that took place at Contemporary.
Yes.
Some of you may or may not know that we had a president named Richard Nixon. And he got into some trouble, but he has a very famous speech where he says, "I'm not a crook," and does this little Nixon thing. He says, "I'm not a crook." He doesn't do that when he says it, but it's him. And
everybody who
you just
stereotypes him.
Yeah, exactly. He made that speech at the Contemporary Resort. So just interesting little side things. And there's an interesting American history thing at the Poly too, but we'll get there.
So he lied on Disney property.
Isn't that fun? It's a little fun history factoid. I'm always about that.
That kind of hurts my heart.
I know.
The wholesome Disney.
Yep. Yep. So.
I'm in mourning now.
So anyway, so it's a historically interesting place, both in terms of architecture, in terms of Disney history, in terms of U.S. history. It's a unique place.
It has a boring pool.
It has a boring pool, which we've talked about before. We were very mean to its pool, but to be honest, that's not why you're...
It's a nice pool.
If you're staying at the Contemporary, you don't really care about the pool anyway. Let's be honest. So, anyway, so that's Walt Disney World's Resorts Contemporary, and I think that's where we're at.
I think we're gonna stop now.
We're gonna stop now. So, Anyway, thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to WD Carousel Podcast. My name's Ian.
And I'm Crystal. And I hope you guys have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
Beautiful tomorrow, just a dream away.